All right, hello, welcome everybody. This is the last day of the quarter, so we are going to spend just a couple of minutes looking at last week's assignment, which was for you to submit some ideas for fourth quarter topics. So I'm going to have you help me narrow this down. So you're going to need a piece of paper and a pen or something you can jot down on, or open up your notepad, just somewhere you can jot down, because there were so many I had to put them on several slides. So we'll go over them, have you kind of pick, and then I'm going to have you throw them in the chat, and I'm going to kind of see what are the top theme ones, and then we'll look at them again tomorrow and kind of narrow that down, and then I'll start forming lesson plans around those topics, okay? And stuff. So I had a little bit too much fun with the gifts, all right? You know, you put in debate, and there's some good ones, all right? This is from SNL, going back to Trump and Clinton. This is off of a news site, so I don't know. I love gifts. They're funny. All right. So you got something to write with? Something to write with? I love SNL. Oh my gosh. SNL is like that, and I love South Park. Anything that's like satire on real life things, I love it. I love it. So, yes. Yes, super, and stuff. All right. So here are some of the topics, okay? So this is the first of 3 slides, okay? So I'm going to start going over them, just kind of explaining the direction we would go in with it, or how we would approach it. Jot down a couple that you like, and then you can always cross off, and I'm going to have you put your top 4 in the chat, all right, to help me. So everybody should have something to write with, or you can type them and then copy and paste like on another document or something like that, and then just throw them in the chat, okay? Political party extremism. And we would look at both sides. So the person who submitted this kind of leaned it to one side, but if we're going to do it, we would need to be fair. Both political parties have extremes to them. Are they dangerous, or is the media giving them too much attention? So some argue that they truly are dangerous, or some argue that the media, that's all they focus on. So by hyper focusing on it, it makes it seem like a bigger threat than it is. So we could debate that. That could be really interesting. This was submitted twice, kind of versions of this. So I had to kind of curtail it to something that we could actually, could be debatable. We see a few states passing, I guess they're kind of known as trans bills, pertaining to people under the age of 18. So in particular, laws that might be limiting or banning, or laws making sure that there is no limitation or banning for people under the age of 18 with medical transitioning. So kind of debating, should there be parameters around medical transitioning if you're under the age of 18? None of the states over the age of 18 have any parameters. You can do what you want. That is not something that is medically or legally banned. But there are some states, if you are under the age of 18, that we're seeing some states take limitations on that potentially. Should smoking be illegal? Should vaping be illegal? Has social media improved communication, or are we worse off? It's stuff. There's some interesting studies out there, especially like mental health, things like that. Should we have a 40 should we go from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week? Should that become standard? That would mean longer shifts. So you'd be doing 10 hours instead of 8 hours, but would that be better? All right. So I'll come back to these. Let's keep going. Is book smarts or street smarts more important? Is book smarts or street smarts more important? That's an interesting one. Are embryos babies? This just came, this is a state court decision and stuff. So this could be, are zoos humane? Sorry, that doesn't come out right. Are zoos humane? Zoo, is the zoo humane place for animals? Should cancel culture be allowed? This kind of gets into what should limitations of speech be, and how do we determine, or how much do we value free speech? Should classic literature, 17 to 1900s literature, be taught in schools today? So think, some of the old classics, there might be words that are used a different way, references to slavery or things in the past that today, obviously we do not embrace. So should literature written in different time periods, should they be? I picked the most basic one of yours. Okay. Well, like I said, some of them I had to take and I had to reword them or something to make it not that the topics weren't great ideas, but that they weren't great ideas, but how do we actually debate it? Okay, how do we actually? So should junk food be banned or limited in America? Is the US doing enough to combat obesity, or is it an individual responsibility? So those could be some to consider. All right, and then here's a few more. All right, is euthanasia ethical? So euthanasia, that's like what we do with like animals, putting them down. So like the ending life. Should we have universal health care? So we currently don't. A lot of industrialized nations do. Pros and cons, should we do that? Is college really necessary for most people anymore? And these two kind of piggybacked on each other. Student loan forgiveness, is the loan your responsibility or the taxpayers? So how maybe there's a lot of feelings or debate around how we should be maybe approaching that. So these are some interesting ones. You could still submit. So if you haven't submit, you know, it's up, but we need to try to narrow some of this down. Okay. So I'll go back over this, jot down your top couple, I'd say 3, 4. Because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 6 topics, because the week before finals, we won't do anything and stuff. And then some of these, I want to give a little wiggle room if we go over a little bit or have some wiggle room. So we'll probably narrow it down to like 6. Okay. So, okay. So one more time, political party extremism, is it dangerous? Or is the media giving it too much attention? So that could be really interesting. Should there be limitations for people under the age of 18 when it comes to medical transition? Should smoking be illegal? Should vaping be illegal? Has social media improved communication? Should we have the 4-day, should we change the work week? Is book smarts or street smarts more important? So book smarts, that's like knowledge, like, you know, if you can do high level math or, you know, a lot of history, or, you know, you're really intelligent. Street smarts is like a sense of, you know, the world and on how to take care of yourself, how to do things, maybe forage, you know, survive. Like there's kind of stuff like that. Are embryos, babies, that has to do with IVF, so in vitro fertilization. Is AI dangerous, and if so, in what way? Are zoos humane? That's never going to come out right. Should cancel culture be allowed? Should we be doing classic literature in school? So meaning like 17 to 1900s. Should junk food be banned or limited in America? And this one, if we did choose this one, we could get more specific. Like some states have tried, we've seen some countries do like absolute bans or taxes on certain kinds of foods, and this and that, especially if they are seen to be unhealthy or contribute to obesity or, you know, known to cause health problems. Is the US doing enough to combat obesity, or is it the individual responsibility? Meaning kind of stay out of it. My business, my thing. Is euthanasia ethical? So it's meaning, you know, ending of life for animals. And should we have universal health care? This has been a long time debated topic in this country and will probably continue to be. Is college really necessary for most people anymore? I actually think this one would be really interesting. This one really could tie into a lot of you are getting ready to graduate or in the next year or two. So is it worth the investment and the amount of money? And that piggybacks on the student loan. Is it worth the money and potential debt that you could be facing? And is that debt your responsibility, or is it the taxpayers? All right. So let's put 3 to 4 in the chat. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make note of those so we can at least start to eliminate some, and especially ones that are reoccurring, then we know, okay, we want to do those. So anybody need me to go back? Try to at least give me 3. All right. Yes, that's great. Give me one more, Leah. And let's try not just to pick the ones that we put for ourselves. Otherwise, I'm going to be right back in the same position. We got to start narrowing down. So give me 3 to 4. You don't even know. Okay. Well, I need you to know what jumps out at you. Make a decision here. Can I go back? Yes. Let's see here. This one, or you want the last one? Just pick ones that are interesting to you. You're like, oh, I wouldn't mind learning more about that. So far, I have cancel culture and literature. And the rest of this, I have nothing. Come on. What sounds interesting to you? Or maybe it's a decision you're facing or something you're like, I don't know enough about that. That would be really good for me to research. Sometimes those are the best things to actually debate, something that you don't have a position on, but you're like, oh, it'd actually probably be a good thing for me to know about that. It doesn't mean you have to have a position. And then through the research, right, you form a position. So euthanasia is the idea of ending an animal's life, like give the shot and you end their life. So humans, it would be considered, it's not considered euthanasia, it would be considered assisted suicide. So the person who put that, they said specifically euthanasia, which is referencing animals. So if we want to look at assisted suicide, that's a very interesting one as well. But that's dealing with humans and whether or not people should have the ability to medically end their life. Obviously, people can end their lives like through suicide, but so euthanasia is referring to animals. Assisted suicide is that the assistance to end life, assisted suicide. And that one can be very controversial and stuff. So that one's really interesting. But euthanasia is specifically to animals. Cancel culture. I think whoever submitted that one, I think I even said I really like that topic. I think that's a really good one. And it isn't necessarily taking a political stance because some of these definitely kind of go down party lines, right? Republican or Democrat or liberal, conservative. Cancel culture is a really interesting one because it's more about speech, right? Free speech, which I think every party or every person, I would hope in this country, wants to advocate. So that's a really interesting one that doesn't necessarily determine your political party. And I like it when you're not being pigeonholed into a political party. Like it's more, so I do really like that one. So if we like that one, I would say we should do that one as one of them for sure. Oh, great. Yeah, I think it's a good one. Okay, so we want cancel culture to be one. Are we just going to do this through? We'll just debate in the chat till we come to conclusions. All right, let's get a few more down. I got one. So let's get a few more. What are some other ones that you like? Throw them out there if you're having a hard time deciding. Healthcare is a really interesting one. That could be a really interesting one. I know that one sounds boring. A lot of pros to universal healthcare, a lot of cons to universal healthcare. That one can be really, really interesting. And soon enough, you'll see you're going to have to provide healthcare for yourself. So that could be interesting. College, student loans. Is it worth it? Whose responsibility is it to pay? Like that could be a really interesting one. Because also where you choose to go to school, right, can have a huge impact on it being cheap or being really expensive. So that could be really interesting. Let's see. Like a lot of these are really interesting. Obesity never used to be controversial, but it's become controversial. When I was growing up, it was just very kind of the way that people saw it. And now we've seen like kind of a cultural shift in the way some people view obesity and stuff. So that could be interesting. Like I said, any of these are interesting. I mean, it just depends on what you guys want to. Political party extremism, that could be really interesting. And the way that this one was submitted, it was directed more at one political party. So I changed that to like general, because both parties have extremes. And I can, we can give example of that, and on the more conservative sides, people would reference like white nationalists or things like that. On the more liberal side, Antifa, things like that. So there are examples, and there's others, but there are examples in both parties of what we would consider extremists. And I don't say that lightly, but I mean, and stuff, but that each party likes to point to. So that could be really interesting. Smoking, vaping, this one could be really interesting because you could draw the same argument of marijuana. So the big trend when I was growing up, marijuana was illegal. And so the big argument was to make it legal. And now that it's legal most places, you know, we're seeing kind of a pushback of like, did we make the right choice? Oregon's gone through this. They legalized pretty much all street drugs, but now they've had such high overdose rates, they're actually looking to reverse the bill. So it's become like what should we allow or what is too much? The junk food one, that could be really interesting. You guys aren't saying anything. Come on, guys. What do we want to do? You guys pick these. Work week. That could be really interesting. My husband works 410s in law enforcement, and he said he will never go back to a 5-day work week again. He loves it. Anybody's parent or anybody knows somebody that works 410s instead of 5/8s? Social media, that could be really interesting. Looking at the trends of mental health, anxiety, depression, suicide, have they gotten better or worse with social media and our communications? That could be really interesting. No? Yes? What do we want to do? I have cancel culture. I need some more. Universal healthcare. Oh, sorry, I wasn't scrolling down. It didn't scroll down. Okay, universal healthcare, zoos, classic literature. The 4-day work week. Okay. So the 4-day work week. So a traditional work week, right, is 40 hours. So some places, so Henderson Police Department, they do 410s. So you work 4 10-hour shifts. Even the city does that, like the city of Henderson. So you don't have to be a first responder. So like the city of Henderson. Vegas, I don't believe does it. I think Vegas is 5/8. So 5 days at 8 hours a day. So either way, you're getting to 40 hours. The question is that doing the longer shift, less days, or more days, less hours. Does that make sense? And it's interesting. Usually the pay is the same because you're doing the same number of hours. You just get more time off, if that makes sense, or more days off, I should say. So that could be interesting. So maybe the work week, classic literature. Okay, so I'm seeing okay, so let's talk about universal healthcare first. Do we want to do universal healthcare? Do we like the work week one or universal healthcare? Work week. Okay, so we'll do work week. That's interesting. Pros and cons. See if there's any studies out there. I've never done any research into that, so that one could be really interesting. What are the pros? Because think we could even maybe apply it to school. Like, would there be pros to? You guys already talked about healthcare. Okay, then we won't do the healthcare one. That's fine. Okay, the work week one could be really interesting because we could even tie that into education. Would it be better for students to go to school 4 days a week and just go to school longer? You know what I mean? Go to school an extra 2 hours a day, but then have Fridays off versus going Monday through Friday. Like that could be interesting. So I like the work week one. All right, let's hear a few more. So we're not going to do universal healthcare. You said you guys already did it. What else? Zoo. What do we think about zoos? This is interesting. So there's definitely an argument of we've made it commercial, right, and make money off of it. So we're incentivized to imprison animals or keep animals in cages. But is it humane? But if we were to shut down all zoos, then would animals, let's say, that are injured or endangered have places to go to be cared for? So that could be really interesting. So let's do the zoo one real quick. Let's talk if we want to do that one, and then let's talk about literature because that could be really interesting too. What do we think of zoo? Do we like the zoo idea? Pros, cons? Have we gone to, not really? Yeah, sure. No. Okay. I'm kind of getting the no vibe. All right. So literature. So by literature, we're talking like classic literature, like 1800s. So I don't know how much research is out there on this. So like I said, some of these you'd hate that. So the literature one could be interesting. There's been a lot of controversy. So for example, like Huck Finn, yes, it is controversial. Absolutely. So some of these, what we would call classic books, but some of the terms they use or some of the things that we would consider today inappropriate. So there's been the argument that there's one argument that says, okay, but you can't judge a book from 200 years ago based on today's standards, like you need to just appreciate what it is and go with it. Or there's the mindset that you did that one too? You guys did the classical literature one? The Bible, the 50 Shades. I don't know that that's quite the Bible is very ancient, but the Bible wouldn't necessarily be considered like classic literature. We're talking like 1800s. So non-religious. So I'll jot it down just as a maybe. And I don't know if I'd call 50 Shades literature. I mean, it's a book, but well, maybe I guess to each their own. Like Jane Austen era, like, Pride and Prejudice, Huck Finn, like the classics. Your grandmother loved it. Oh, I know a lot of people that loved it. I'm not saying 50 Shades didn't have it was popular for a reason. So, what do you guys think of the social media one, like communication? This could kind of be interesting. Do we like this one maybe? I mean, we know there's some negatives, but maybe actually looking at statistics, like what has happened. Okay, I think that would actually be really interesting. Like, it is pretty simple. Okay, so let's maybe look at the social media one. Because I think there's a general consensus that there's a lot of negatives to social media, but I don't know that we necessarily know all the stats. Copy and paste it. The stats and things like that. Of like what has happened to trends, especially with youth, like what's happened to trends with youth as social media has become more, have we seen as big a change in depression, anxiety, suicide? Have they gone up as much? And can we associate that to social media? I think that's really good because that's your generation. It's not mine, it's yours. That is living it out. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways. Okay. All right, let's at least get one more, and then I want to give you a few minutes to work and stuff. Do we let me see. Book smart, street smarts. This one might be hard to research. I don't know. Are embryos babies? It kind of goes into abortion. I don't know that that's really one. There's so much research out there, and I think at the end of some topics, the reason I've avoided them, not because they're not interesting, it's just, I don't know that you can really it just becomes yelling back and forth. The AI one could be really interesting. Yes, Yellow, go ahead.
You can, for what was it again? The book smarts and street smarts. You can do the differences in IQ and how it's measured.
Oh, okay. So
that's what I did on the other one, and I said there's like different smarts, like literature, like artistic smart, and there's different kinds.
Okay. So looking more into like IQ, so some of that's book smart, street smarts, but also then what types of intelligence maybe benefits the most or something like that. Okay, so like take an IQ standpoint with it. Okay. That could be really interesting. Okay, and then did we I saw some chat about AI. We all know AI is coming. It is already taking over jobs. So this could be really interesting of how much do we limit it or should we? It's the next big leap, right? In technology where there's always great things that come with technology, but there's always growing pains. And we're doing that a little bit with like green energy. We're looking at that a little bit. Yes, Yellow?
Because I want to do the AI one, but the thing is, like, I want to do like an inappropriate take on it. because of
Okay.
like how social media is and like what they're doing with that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. No, that could be, well, and you could even, we could,
I can kitty it up, like make it more like child friendly.
yes, well, what you're saying, where actually I saw a news article on that about like men getting like pulled into really like, nice looking girls on social media, and they're actually
Exactly.
fake girls.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, or we're seeing this in the Hollywood industry, right? Where AI is like
Mhm.
writing scripts. And so they're having a field day of, that they're going to be replaced. So it's not just like McDonald's and taking your order. It's, yeah, every facet. So let's put AI down, and then we'll have to kind of focus it a little bit. Yeah, but I'm open to that. So we like AI. That's to say, there's so many, and AI is definitely an interesting one because you could look at it from a jobs perspective. You could look at it from like a social media. Yeah, well, that's what I say. There's pros to AI. There's a lot of exciting things coming down from it. So don't get me wrong, like it's exciting, but it's also just like anything. And this is part of, I think, being a complex thinker, is acknowledging that anytime you are moving forward in something, there's always going to be growing pains. Great example, look at history, the Industrial Revolution. So much technology came out of the Industrial Revolution, electricity, engines, factories, things like that. But it was at the expense of a lot of workers. Yes, child labor, horrible working conditions. So we got all this technology, but there was the expense of working conditions so it took a while for governments to catch up, right? To set better working conditions, safe working conditions, things like that. I don't think I don't remember seeing child labor. If you did, I'm sorry if I missed it. Should we go back to child labor? I don't know. Is that debatable? Do people want us to go back? I think I mean, at least I would think the common census is that people don't want that. Well, children can work at, I think, 15, right? Some states allow for exemptions, I think 13 or 14, like if you're in agriculture.
Yeah, that's what we had in mind with my friend because she had been working since she'd been like 14. So
Mhm.
that's what I had in mind, but I wanted to be a pain in the butt.
But so I was saying, I think if kids want to work at a certain age, right, we can allow that.
Yeah.
But the reason that we'll never fully go back to that is because of the requirement of school, right? School's supposed to be the primary, and the job the secondary. Yeah. Okay. So AI. So I've got cancel culture, work week, literature, social media, IQ, AI. So I think that's good. We like that. And like I said, some of these we might have to pair a little bit, focus a little bit. Like AI, what direction? IQ, again, kind of focus. Literature, I'll have to be very specific of like what era, things like that. Yeah, go ahead, Coop.
With the AI thing, are we gonna do it like if not AI with IQ? My bad.
Uh-huh.
With IQ, are we gonna do it like if your IQ actually says if you're smart or not?
Well, I think so. There's kind of two ways you could approach it, like the book smart, street smart IQ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I think what Cielo was saying was different ways of approaching. Are you more artistic? Are you more scientific? Are you more mathematical? More
Yeah.
and
Okay.
so some of this is because what I do is when I pull a lesson together, I got to go find research. So it's like, how much can I find to create a good argument? Because we can't really do a debate if I can't find literature to kind of show a well-rounded argument.
Yeah.
Because my goal as the teacher is to be neutral and to allow students to explore and come to their opinion. If I'm guiding you down a path that is predetermined, then it's really not doing my job. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Within reason. Exactly. So we want to make sure that we're being fair. At least that's my approach. I want to make sure we're being fair when we are picking topics that people can come to different conclusions on and feel safe doing that. You know what I mean? And not feel afraid. That's why certain topics I just like, I'll give the example of abortion. People have very, very strong feelings on that one way or another, or anywhere in between. And so at the end of the day, are we really accomplishing something by debating it? Do you know what I mean? Where there's a lot of research out there. We've all heard the arguments and stuff. So people have the right to have their opinion and not necessarily feel attacked. Yes, go ahead, Ciel.
There was this one from before, like an argument that I made about like abortion, like out of state abortions and like out of state like surgeries and how they should be like literally the same because and should they be treated the same? That's what I'm trying to say. I
Okay.
don't know if it's like I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I think that there's certain topics where doesn't mean they don't need to be discussed, but I don't know that this is the place where and honestly, I don't want to tread, you know. I'm trying to keep my job. It is sad. It is sad. And there's a lot of topics like that. So, okay. So with the last 10 minutes or so, or a few minutes or so, let me see, what time are we in here till? Are we done? What time are we in here till? I'm so new to like the Tuesday 7th period. I want to take a nap. Okay. So real quick, before I let you go, so everything closes tonight that is still open. So if you need to get your grade up, here is the list. Okay. Here is the list. So the TED Talk, we've done 3 debate topics. Those are all summative. Plastics debate, we did a TED Talk on the deadly sins, the EV cars debate, and then 4th quarter and animal testing. Okay. On Thursday, I have a documentary that we're going to watch on the cobalt mines. And the reason I'm showing you that is, one, I think it builds off of the kind of green argument. Is it all really green? And maybe some of the growing pains that a lot of people don't know about with clean energy. Is it as clean as we say? So I think that one's interesting. So we're going to watch that or tomorrow, not Thursday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. We'll watch that. And also part of the reason because I'm proctoring on Monday and Friday, I have to get grades done. So I got to get grades done during class. We're going to watch a video so I can get some grades done. So that's also part of the reason that we are doing, but it is a really good video. It's only about 40 minutes, so it won't take the entire period. So you'll have some time to do other things or just to get your worksheet in. Okay. If you need to bring your grade up, here is the list. Get these in. I've graded everything that was submitted so far. All right. So unless you've submitted something in the last 30 minutes, it's been graded. So your grade should be accurate. All right. If you have any questions, email me. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Thank you for all the input. So we got cancel culture, work week, literature, social media, IQ, AI. And like I said, some of these we might have to narrow down a little bit or kind of see what stuff, but we'll work from there. All right. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody.